Watcher, welcome to episode 4 of my SWG crafting videos. Today, long overdue, I must say myself, we're going to talk about crafting RIS armor. Where do I start, right? Is it good? How do you make it? What's the different types? What's the difference between RIS and interwoven RIS? Where'd you get all the mats? Let's cover it all. I'm sort of half prepped for the video. I've got a rough idea of what I want to talk about. We're going to try and do it probably all inside an hour. I might put some timestamps in the video. I might not. But we'll bumble our way through it and talk about all the things that people need to know about RIS. So that's it really, I think. Excuse me, I got a cup of tea as usual, and hopefully this is going to flow okay. Right, and it should be informative, right? And if it doesn't, then I've failed. So, RIS armor. If you played the game back in 2002, back in the early days, and you saw somebody looking like I am right now, target me, and then examine me. If you saw someone standing in a starport with a RIS helm like that, you were like, that's cool, right? And if they had a bigger suit of it, you were like, that's really cool, right? And RIS is one of those things. It's not easy to obtain. It has its uses. They're a bit specialised. And the gap on the customer versus the creator knowledge is quite large. Okay? So if someone says to me, Larry, can you make some RIS? I've got a load of questions to ask. If someone says to me, Larry, can you make some composite? I'll say, yeah, go to my vendor. There's high base stuff. There's low ham stuff. There's super low ham stuff. You can change the colour whenever you want. And you can buy it off my vendor. It's in bags. RIS is not like that. RIS can have a, let's call it ready to wear flavour, right? And we'll make some of that on this video. But then you move into more specialist. And the difference there is there's essentially two types of RIS that you can craft in the game. The first type is the standard. You start on Dantooine as an armorsmith. You go and see the hermit guy up in the top left-hand corner. And you go through a series of little quests to go and get some RIS components to make some RIS. The guy then gives you access to the schematics. You don't get them at Master Armorsmith. You have to go and do a set of quests. That's standard RIS. Then off the Acklay drops a schematic called Interwoven RIS. Now, essentially the difference from a very simple understanding is the interwoven RIS you can make better. You've got more slots for putting in enhancements, which means you can customize it more. You can make it better. It uses some of the components that you find in the geocaves, such as geocubes, red, yellows, or greens. So it's much more customizable. But because it's a schematic that drops from the Acklay, it by default it's more expensive because you've got to get your hands on the schematic. Now, a lot of people farm the Acklay. The Acklay drops the schematic relatively frequently. People don't want it. People like me buy it. And people like me buy it and drop it in the shop. And here you can see this is an interwoven RIS schematic. It's the same as most schematics in the game. You will learn the schematic. It will go to your data pads. You can create the item, but only a certain amount of items. And I think the interwoven schematic gives 5. So you can make 5 pieces of interwoven RIS from one schematic. There's a method to make more. That's around being smart with factories and sizes, but I'll put some footnotes or I'll cover that at the end. But we're going to talk about through creating RIS, and I prepared some bags today as I attempted to have a little think about what I wanted to talk about. RIS has specialist layers. It's got 2 types of segments, RIS and interwoven RIS. Then you've got the final item, and then you've got all the components that you need to make it. Some components are required, some components are optional. We'll talk through it all. I see people looting Peko feathers and try and charge a fortune for them. Frankly, they're not worth it. But we'll cover it all. So let's assume we're starting from scratch. I'm going to go and make some RIS. I've got firstly, if you're an armorsmith, you know the basic concepts of armor. You create layers. Layers go into segments. Segments go into final items. If you're making composite armor, you could put 3 layers in a segment. And then if you wanted to make a chest, you need 4 segments. RIS armor is not like that. RIS armor will take RIS layers or normal layers. You have to have some components, not some others. I'll do it. We'll talk it through. So first thing, we're going to make a RIS segment. I think that's the right place to start. And the components are relatively simple. 3 resources: titanium, aluminium, Rory fiberplast, and channeling intrusive ore. It's got the space for a Woolamander Harrower bone fragment and a Gurk King hide. They're required, they're not optional, you have to have those. Then it's got a space for 2 layers and an enhancer. So 2 layers: kinetic layer, energy layer, stun layer, acid layer, cold layer, heat layer, blast layer. Whatever you want to increase the armor's resistance of. And then down here, segment enhancer, Jan to hide, Night Sister shard. Okay, Voritor scale. These things that will boost the performance of the armor and give it that extra kick. Okay, these 2 are required. Woolamander Harrower bone fragment, pretty simple. Woolamander Palace, point of interest on Yavin 4. Go in the temple, down the end. There's 2 of these guys. They drop them. It's not a really common drop. Drops in stack size of 1 to 4. You need 1 per piece of RIS that you want to make. And Gurk King hides. Lock, 2 fixed locations. Spawns every 30-ish minutes. People AFK farm it quite a bit. Drops in stack size 1 to 10. And you need 1 in here. Okay, so you've got to go to Yavin 4. You've got to get some of these components. You've got to go to Lock. You've got to get these components. Or buy them. Or have your customer provide them. And they have to go into the armor. You can also put Night Sister layers in here. So we're going to make some RIS. But I'm going to try and do some things at the same time. I need to get in my head what the base production of this armor is without adding layers. The interesting thing about RIS is supposed to say composite armor. If you wanted to make composite armor, you want it to be 80%. You're going to use 2 or 3 layers. It's a pretty simple formula. I've covered it off in a previous video. You can go and watch it, and I'll link it somewhere. Or not, you can find it on my YouTube channel. For RIS, the need for layers is reduced. The armor is better by default. So what you need in terms of layers is significantly less. That's where the difference starts to come in between composite and RIS. Composite, pretty regular formula, pretty standard stuff. RIS, resources have a big impact on the flexibility. And I've just, today is the 22nd of August, between what month we're in. And there's been some new resources. So I've done a bit of shopping, got some mats, I've got some new fiberplast last night. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a RIS segment. That's going to help me determine lots of things. So in my segment pile, that's this box here. Got my ore, my alley, and my fiberplast. In my looted components here, I've got my Woolamander and my Gurk King. So I'm going to use 1 of each of those. So that's my base segment before I experiment on it. It's worth noting at this point that the special resistance, the special protection type on RIS is kinetic, which is good and it's bad. It follows the same sort of trend as Wookiee armor, So kinetic is the special protection. So Wookiee armor's in that category. Ubis is in that category, and RIS is in that category. That means that you can't get better than 80% kinetic resistance. That's why some people say, you know, RIS is fancy, it looks nice, but its composite is better because you can get 90%. But the armor has different properties. You can get better ham, and it can last longer. And this day and age of no ADKs, that's the thing, right? Trust me, that's the thing. Condition. So this is the base product segment. Going to make it in the usual fashion. I'm going to experiment on the special protection, which is going to boost up the kinetic here. I'm going to run that up to the max, and then we're going to put the rest in ham. And what you'll notice straight away, or maybe not, is the fact that actually the ham on RIS armor is lower than it is on composite. I've got no layers in here, but generally it's lower. So we're going to make this segment, and it's 25% kinetic. The reason that I'm doing this is it's a costly process, but I need to understand how good my resources are before I add in layers and before I add in enhancements. It's really important when you craft armor. It's super important when you craft RIS. I'm going to quickly get my friend Excel. I'm going to make some notes because this is going to be important. Don't laugh at my copy of Excel. I think this is absolutely fine. What's this? 2007 Excel. It's all good. So my base kinetic was 25%. Okay. Got that on the segment. Gonna wait for it to pop out. Gonna drink a cup of tea. Talking for 12 minutes. Gonna pause. Oh, well, boss spawned 23 minutes ago. And I was like, oh, just let go. Right. So here we have our segment. Ham's pretty low, 885. Effectiveness 5%, kinetic 25. Not too important. What's important is to turn this into a piece of RIS. Now this is an expensive practice. Okay, I've got a Woolamander Fragment in there. I've got a Gurk King hide in there. They're pretty cheap. I sell some extras, and they're relatively easy to come by. The kicker is in a minute because you need a giant Dune Kimogila scale, which spawn on lock, and you know you need a TKM commando to go and farm them. They don't come up on the sale very often. They're not farmed a lot on Fertilizer, and I'm going to have to sort of have a word with a few people to try and get some. So we're going to make a piece of RIS. Interestingly about RIS is RIS only requires one segment regardless of what you're making. So if you're making a composite chest piece, you need 4 identical segments. So I've got to make it in a factory. I don't have to do that with RIS. If I want to make a RIS chest piece, it takes 1 segment. So the offset to the expensive nature of the armor is it's not a multiplied. It's not like 4 times as expensive in terms of the resources and the special materials. That's why there's a place for selling single 8% Night Sister layers, by the way. No good for composite, fantastic for RIS, right? So RIS armor's chest piece. Actually, we'll make a helm. Let's go here. I'm really conscious that I'm talking quickly, but let's keep going. So what do I need for here? I need a set of materials. Here they all are. I'll just go through them. That's the Lionite, solid fuel. That's the new Talus Fiberblast spawned yesterday. Hibai, Herade, Plantanite Copper. It's a couple hundred days old now. Pefro, Server Best, I think it is. Venusi gems, Oasis Chromium, and Server Best Rory Woolly Hide Relep. I'll link them in the end. Actually, I'll put the Galaxy Harvester links in the video. So that's all my components. I need my segment. I need 2 other things. I need a synthetic cloth, which I've got there, and I need a giant Dune chemo scale. which I've got in here. Okay, so this, practice is probably costing me about 150k credits, but it's critical to understand what your basic stuff comes out as before you move into making RIS for selling, and also what you're going to do with Interwoven RIS. You'll understand all that in a second, hopefully. So when I make this armor, my 25% kinetic turns into 45. There's, by default, the armor, when you go into the armor creation process, is given a plus 20 bonus to all the stats, which is why I got plus 20 on the kinetic and 20 on everything else. So the base resistance of the armor is 20. Okay, so my base segment is 45. My final item, spelt badly, it's a trademark Larrick thing. Final item is 45%. Okay, so next I'm going to experiment. Just got to check item 12 points. I was out doing some boss stuff yesterday, take my Armorsmith stuff off. Here we go. What do you notice? Wow, isn't it low ham? Normal, off the shelf, composite helmet, mind cost, 330 ham, off the top of my head. Default, off the shelf, RIS cost, 179. This is big differences. If you want to play unbuffed, you want to play food and drink, you want to go and kill creature lairs, RIS versus composite, no debate, RIS all day long. Right, the ham costs are a fraction of the cost of composite. Actually, when you do the quests, I think the guy actually has some text. He's like, there's some new super duper armor that's been created that's ultra light, that's going to be really good. And it is ultra light and it is really good. So what's important to understand is when I experiment in my special effectiveness, what's it actually going to get me to before I start? Okay, this is I'm going to use to backward engineer from the final result to what I actually need to do. Hope this sort of makes sense. So I'm going to max out this line here. This is going to increase the condition. It's going to increase the kinetic. And I'm going to max that out. Okay, so I can hit 80% kinetic. This is why resources are important, because I couldn't do this several months ago. I can hit 80% kinetic with no layers. When I made that segment, there was 2 slots for layers. I didn't use them. I can hit 80% kinetic. And I've also got 3 spare points, which means I can put the ham down. So I can get to 80% kinetic, 20% base, with 163 mind, using no layers. Wow, right? Resources make a difference, right? Resources make a difference. I'm going to create that, and then we're going to come to the color palette, and we'll talk about that. And I'm going to make this item, and anyone that comes along, it's going to be on my vendor sale later. Firstly, color palette. RIS has a really reduced color palette, right? And it's not all that pretty. If you want a red helm, you can go color 1 red, which is this sort of area at the top, color 2 red. Okay, it's not quite the same shade. Okay, there's a little bit of perspective, light source shading going on here. So if you want red, it's not that bad. If you want blue, it's not that bad. If you want blue-red, which is quite a common thing, it's not too bad. Some of the browns are okay. Some of the greens, I kind of like this grey for Imperial. There's some maroons. A very interesting selection of colours. Maroon teal, that's the right colour for that. Turquoise and maroon, that's quite popular actually. And then you can invert the colour. It doesn't look quite as good there as it does there. So you have to have a little look around. Now, interesting, you can only I'm only showing you the helm. The armors are quite the same. But there's a website actually, and I'll put the link in because you can't change the colour once you've made it. So it's expensive armour. You could end up putting a lot of subcomponents in it. It's important that you get your colour correct. Or when you're trying to buy it from an armorsmith, you tell them what colours. There's this universal website. I'll pull the link up. I'll put it in the below the video, which will say this is like A1. This is like A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, and then B1, B2. So it sort of numbers it, so you sort of can communicate with your armorsmith, so they know what colours you want. Or you do as I did before. I did it on the live stream. So we're going to go with this. We're going to go with this maroon teal. I think I didn't really plan for that, but we'll go with that. So 80% kinetic, 20% energy, and everything else, and down at 163 mines. I'm going to make that piece of armour. Thanks very much. 3 resources for the segment, 6 resources for the armour, 1 Dune chemo scale. Let's go about 100k to buy those on the open market, and then a Gurk King hide and a Woolamander fragment. You know, they're anything from 10k each to 25k each, depending on how many's available. I did a bit of farming. If anyone wants to buy some RIS off of me, then I've got plenty of Woolamander Harrower bang fragments. I needed some combat XP, and it was a good place to get it. So I've got plenty of those. So that's the basic of RIS, and the reason why this is important is because several months ago, when we were making RIS, when the resources were rubbish, they're significantly better now. You had to put in kinetic layers to get to the 80% kinetic. Now, when you put in a kinetic layer, it's doing 2 things, 3 things. The first thing it's doing is putting kinetic resistance into the item. Now, that's obvious. The second thing it's doing is adding ham. So every layer you put in adds to ham if it's a normal crafted. And it also adds integrity, 300, 500, which is going through the overall condition. If we look at this when this pops out, I didn't clock what it was, but I think it was 33,000 condition before I experimented. And when I experiment that kinetic, it also boosts the condition. So this is probably about 44,000. Might be something as good as that. Might be 40k condition. You get conditions from putting layers in the product, so you can intentionally boost the condition. The reason why RIS is really good is because if you make Interwoven RIS, you can put a green cube from the geocubes and add basically 10,000 condition. So let's have another look at this. So off the bat, no layers, 44,000 condition. And when I was experimenting, I think I needed to do the whole line to hit 80%. I filled it up, and then I did it again. Then I looked. I didn't actually pay attention, which is pretty bad. So do you know what? Let's quickly make a matching chest piece. Let's do that. But let's cover off RIS layers. This is sort of build. You understand my videos, right? Think about it, do it, think about it. So RIS armor layers. Well, what's exciting about RIS armor layers? Well, the very unexciting thing about RIS armor layers is you have a Peko feather. It's not an optional, it's a required. Requires 1 Peko Albatross feather. So we're going to put that in, and then 3 materials. So let's see what it's going to do. Now, interestingly, this doesn't increase the special protection. This increases the base resistance. The other thing that's interesting about this is, whilst the ham is here, I can actually send this ham negative. So if I was to come here, I should have had some best pin pour and some polygon cake. It's a bit slack of me. I'll get some in a second. So when I've got here the ham and the integrity, which goes into the condition, actually if I max this line out, I'm actually negative. So the interesting thing about a RIS layer is you can actually reduce the ham. So if I was to put 2 of these layers into that piece of armor, they're -2 each, so that's going to take 6. If I do 2, that's 12 off the total ham, and I'm putting an extra 1,300 a bit condition on the armor. So that 44, nearly 45k will be nearly 46k in terms of condition. Very expensive thing to do. You don't need to do it. I'm only doing it for the demonstration. But the other interesting thing is we increase this base. And so that's going to make everything that was 20% energy, cold, heat, blast, acid. Not acid, I think it's weak to acid. It's going to put 3% on top of that. So we'll quickly make that layer. I think it was like an early idea to reduce the ham cost of the armor even more. And then there's further ways to do it with red geocubes in Interwoven R.I.S. So we've made the layer. We're going to make another segment. Another Gurk King hide, another Woolamander. I'm not going to put any of these layers in. No, I'm not going to do it. Or should I chuck a Night Sister shard in it? Yeah, I'm going to chuck this one Night Sister shard in it. Okay, so this is going to be, the first was basic RIS, let's call it that. This is going to be low ham RIS. Okay, basic low ham RIS. Okay, it's going to have a little bonus because of the layer that's going to pop out of here. But we use a Night Sister shard in the normal fashion in the segment slot to do that. Now, I could also be using at this point an 8% Janta hide to get from 20% base to 28% base, but why would you? It's, you know, not really offering you any real more protection. Whereas putting the shard in is taking 90 off of the pretty much 90 off of the ham. That's a big difference. So we'll put this layer in. We'll put this one. The other thing about this RIS armor is it's vulnerable to stun, acid, and lightsaber. Okay, now I can plug these vulnerabilities by putting in a stun layer, and I could put in an acid layer. Actually, if I've got one here, why don't I do that as well? Yeah, why don't we do that? Why don't we chuck a stun layer in as well? It's going to give an extra 3%, but it's going to come with quite a big ham cost. Okay, that ham cost there is negated by that shard, but you can see if I use 2 stun layers. Okay, so if I was to push this to 24% stun, so imagine I didn't use this Peko one, I could take that out. I could put 2 of these stun layers in. That's going to give me 30, 60, 96 more ham, but it's going to be negated by that segment. So I've got the base one, which came out at whatever that was before I experimented, down to 163. If I put layers in it, it makes it heavier. Then I could offset that by putting in a Night Sister shard. So let's do that. Let's chuck in 2 stun layers on this piece. And this Night Sister shard to offset it. Okay. So let's make that. And now in the same way, I'm going to max the kinetic because I want that all the way up the top. So let's do that now. And then let's put the same again. Let's put this to reduce the ham. I could increase the base, but I'm just sticking with the ham currently. My view on increasing the base is if you're going to do it, really do it. Right? And really do it means stick 2 energy layers in it at 13% each to get another 26% energy top, and then go and chuck a 8% Night Sister, 9% Janta hide in it. Really boost it, or don't bother. Right, either do it or don't do it. So we can do that. We can put that in there, and we will make this item here. What's important is we look this time on how many points did I really need to put in to hit 80%. I've got a feeling it was probably that whole line I needed to fill, and I just subconsciously did it, but I'm not really aware that I paid attention. I just maxed it, then looked, and this time I'm gonna put the whole line in -1, look, and then we can actually really see how much it takes. If you don't understand that, skip past this little bit of me going, all right, how was that looking, and then working it backwards. So we'll do something different this time. Let's make a chest piece, not a composite one. We're making RIS. So we'll make a RIS chest piece, and we'll get that ready. Now, by the way, these mats, all these resources that I'm using, are to give me the best result for the effectiveness of the armor. They're not the best ones for reducing the ham. Just bear that in mind. So if you want to really push the ham down, there might be a sweet spot of replacing one of these resources for something else to get the ham cost down. At the moment I'm not focused on it. So let's go again, let's have a look. So now we've got the same 45 kinetic, but because I had two lots of 3%, which was 3 point something on these stun layers, this 3% is rounded for the view, but actually there's decimal points behind. Those decimal points are worthy to get it up to an extra point, so I've got 27 now. Okay, so I've got 24% stun, 45% kinetic. I've creeped that up, and when I experiment like this, I filled the whole line before. Okay, so I went straight in with 7 points. I'm just going to knock it back now. I'm going to go straight in with 5 points and see what this boosts to. Okay, and I'm going to take some best bit port just because I should do it anyway. Okay, so I get to 67, so that's on 5? Yeah, 5. Let's chuck 2 in more, so that's 7. Gets me to 76. 8 gets me to 80. So I don't need to fill the whole bar. So when I do it next time, I need to do the whole bar, go back, right? So 8 gets me the way, which means I can use 4 for putting in the ham. Which I'll drink another one of those, hoping for a amazing, which I don't get, obviously. So now I've got 190 chest piece. Okay. If I compare that to I made some composite armor for the day, so that's a Night Sister chest piece, 80% kinetic, and it's focused on low ham. That's 206 health, 36,000. This is 45,000 at 24%, 190. So it's lower ham, and it doesn't have the better mid stats, but the base stats, but they're not important at this level. And what's important is the top and the bottom. So, I can make Night Sister composite that's focused on reducing the ham cost, or I can make RIS, which by default has lower ham cost. That's what it's about. It's not got amazing protection. You can't get the 80 to 90, but you can absolutely have tiny ham costs on RIS. Okay, so there we go. So that's sort of it in my mind. I only need 8 points to hit 80%, and I'm going to make a post-up item, and I'm going to make it the same colour mix. When you get off the helms and you get onto the chest pieces, actually it's quite nice with the invert of the armour colours. Turn around, or sit that way around, and let's make that. So 80% connect, 24% stun. Right. So you can also plug the acid hole. Okay, if you see someone in RIS in PvP, fire an acid weapon at them. chances are you'll drop them, because chances are it's vulnerable. So we'll create that. That's it. And you know, that's RIS. Okay, let's cover that as that's RIS. Relatively simple to make. Not a lot of resources needed. 9 different resources. Some subcomponents that are relatively available. The giant Dune chemo scale is the difficult one. And the resources now are at a point where you don't need kinetic layers. Before, I needed to put in a 9% kinetic layer to get that up. So now that means the world of possibilities when it comes to interwoven RIS. Okay, and this is where RIS goes off the scale in terms of how you want to customize that RIS. Okay, so we're going to make a comparison to sort of this helm here. So this was a basic RIS helm, 80% kinetic. I experimented in kinetic and mined, and this is what I've ended up with: 26, 26, 163. This is a basic RIS helm. Okay. Now we're going to go through the process of making an interwoven helm. Okay. So we start in the same place, but I need to make an interwoven segment. Okay, so I've got RIS segments and interwoven segments. I've got it in the list because I've already used one of these things, an interwoven segment schematic. So I can make one of these. And at this point here, this is when I tell you how you make the segments. Can be really important. So I can make my single segment. But if I was to be smart with my stack sizes, instead of actually making the segment, I can make a schematic, and then I can produce additional ones. I'm restricted by the Woolamander Harrower Fragment. They generally only drop in 4s. So instead of making 1, if I used a 4 stack of fragments here, okay, and then everything else a 4 stack or better, then I could actually make a factory schematic and make 3 of these segments. So if I take this schematic, this will let me make 5. If I'm smart, I can make 15 out of it. Okay, but I've got to have stacks of resources. So I've got to have big stacks of layers. I've got to have big stacks of cubes. I can't do it with singles. So here we go. Slight difference. It uses a different thing at the moment. Resource here for the interwoven. It wants you have an animal bone. The other 2 resources are the same. This is pretty much comparable. This bone is pretty much comparable to pretty much comparable to the Fiberblast. The Fiberblast is a bit better because it was new yesterday. It's pretty good. So here we go. So if you remember, and I don't expect you to necessarily, you go back and you look at the RIS segment. I had 2 layer slots and I had an enhancement slot. Here, instead of 2 layers and enhancer, I've got 3 layers. I've got an enhancer and I've got a space for a geocube. Okay, geocubes come in 3 flavors. That one's there. Let's put it in here. So geocubes, firstly, yellow cubes. Yellow cubes used by armorsmiths and weaponsmiths. Weaponsmiths want min-max damage. Armorsmiths want armor effectiveness. So if I was to make this armor and put this geocube in it at 9%, everything else was equal, from the first pieces I made, I would have 29% base on energy. Okay. I can use a green cube. I can put 10,000 condition straight on the top of this armor. So this 45,000 piece of armor becomes a 55,000 piece of armor. I can put a red cube in it and I can take another 30 off the ham. Okay, so red cubes have same again used by armorsmith and weaponsmith. You don't generally see a weaponsmith use a red cube. I used to mess about with some on basilisk. But here I could take another 33 points off of this. And by the way, the ranges of these things on cubes are pretty big. This is -11s on the board. That's a really good red cube. I think it's -12 is the natural cap. But you can get them all the time. You have like -5, -10, -7, right? All mixed up, jumbled stats. Green cubes, 5,000 is common. 11,000 is top end. Yellow cubes, 3%. You'll see 8% in my mind was Basilisk cap. For some reason, Finalizer throws up 9% as standard. So I can put one of those in. I can also chuck in my Janta hide. So I could chuck in an 8% Janta hide. So this is where we get to sort of let's sort of work some stuff out. Okay. So bit of maths. So the base resistance, the base effectiveness was 20%. Right on that piece of armor. Go 20% base resistance. Doesn't show too well on the screen. I'm aware of that. So the natural cap is 80%. Okay, so the most you can get on the base resistance capped is 80. So if you made the most perfect piece of armor before slice, it would have 80% special protection, 80% base, and it would have low ham. That would be the perfect piece of armor, right? And big condition. But here, I can work out what I want to do in layer 1. What I want to put in layer 1, what I want to put in layer 2, I'll put in layer 3. What do I want for my enhancer? And what do I want for my cube? Okay, and then what am I going to get to? Excel, simple. So I could put 8% Night Sister layers in here. I could put an 8% layer in, another 8% layer, another 8% layer. I could put an enhancer. I could put an 8% Janta hide. And I could put a 8% yellow cube. Okay. Yellow, Janta, Night Sister layer. Okay, I could do that. Now, if I put 3 Night Sister layers into this item, Night Sister layers. If I took these ones, these 8%, it's also -9 on action. If I did 3 of those, I'll take 20, 19, 27 off the action. If I went and used Beskar shards that now drop, Beskar actually reduces the health. So Night Sister shards have a bonus to effectiveness and decrease the action. Beskar, not the same. They increase the base but decrease the health. Well, health's the most commonly hit pool, so that's handy. Right? There's a value in Beskar that people don't realise for reducing that stuff down. So I can do this and I can get myself to 80%. But this is where the but comes in. When I made these original ones, I experimented on the kinetic and then I experimented on the ham to reduce the ham cost. 3 points on the segment and then 4 points on the final item. I don't need to do that. I could instead, I could put that into increasing the base effectiveness. So now I've got to do some maths again. Right? Actually, I know that in theory it's possible to get this to 80% before a slice. So a combination of enhancing the segment and the final item in improving the base, I can actually get this to 80% kinetic and 80% base. So we can try it. We can do that now, right? But I'm not sure whether I want to do it on the segment or the final item, which is a bit annoying. And really, I want to make another single one. So I'm going to have to go and do it because it makes a difference. Because it's easier to reduce ham on the segment than the final item. Well, the layers, but so we're going to go back and we're going to make one more. The only challenge is it's an interwoven segment, not a normal segment, so the numbers aren't going to stay the same. I don't have a choice. I'm going to have to do it here. Okay, so here we go. RIS interwoven segments. Some of that, some of that, some of that. We are going to go for what are we going to put in? We're going to put in 1 8% Dantooine, and we're going to put in. I need some more Night Sister layers. Hopefully I've got some more 8%, 7s. That's an 8 stack. I don't want to use that one if I don't have to. So 9s. Saving those. These are 10s. See, these didn't drop on Basilisk as far as I was aware. Certainly not for the first 8 years of Basilisk's life. But it's dropping. Finalizer drops 10% effectiveness as, you know, not enhanced. It's not green or yellow, that item. This might be. I might have to use that big stack of 8s. Yeah, go on then. That big stack of 8s. It's worth it for all the hundreds of views I'm going to get on this video. And then minus 13 on the action. These are nice. Okay, here we go. So we're going to go minus 8, 8%, 8%, 8%. Now that's 8 point something. So instead of that being plus 24, it might be plus 25 decimals. Who knows? So we'll put 3 of those in. So we've got 3 8% Night Sister layers, 1 8% Dantooine. We're going to go and put a 9% cube. What the heck? Let's put the 9% cube in. I need my Gurk King hide and my Woolamander fragment. Okay. So this is what I would call quite a loaded segment. Okay. And that's why you know, don't make a mistake with the colours, right? After you've got these sorts of mats going. So we'll put that in. And I'm going to maximise the kinetic again as normal. But instead of dropping the ham this time, I'm going to increase the armour effectiveness. Okay, so it's currently at 48. Excuse me, currently at 48. I'm going to get it to 58, so I've got a bonus 10 out of that. This is pretty good. So, create the item. And then, what are we going to make this time? Made a helm, we made a chest. These be quite posh boots. But we'll do that. We'll make it in the same. We'll make it in the same color range. So while that's cooking, is one that I made earlier. So this was a helm that I made a while ago, and got it sliced. So stats wise, 80% kinetic, 9% stun, and it's sliced up to 90% with a 215 mind, which is quite nice. So this helm's not going to be like that. This helm's going to be more base because I've put 3 8% layers in it. That would have had a 3% layer because it would have been stun 4. Actually, 4%. So I've got 4 more percent. And I used an 8 cube, not a 9 cube. So this has got 5% more base in it. Now when it's sliced, you know, it was already 80 cap. So this means in theory I can be able to reduce the ham of whatever I make a little bit more, and it requires some experimentation, but let me put that in the advanced armorsmithing, right? Which is where do I experiment on the ham on the segment or ham on the final item? Do I need to put 8% Night Sister layers in here, or could I use 7%? Could I use 6%? What's important is you write down what you've put in. You know in your mind where you're experimented. Okay. So my experimentation was on max kinetic, then the rest in base, right? So that's what I did. And when I put this into a craft, yeah, let's make some boots. Boots. That goes and that goes. Here's the rest of my mats. Giant scale. Okay, so before I experiment, it's 44. Oh, is he dead, is he? 44% kinetic. So my kinetic is 44%. The reason it was 44 and the other one was 45 is because that Rory Fiberblast is better than that bone. Okay, just why you wonder why it changed. It's not significant, but it is different, right? So this is pre-experimentation. So 44% kinetic, 73% base. Now, slicing is 50-50 cumbrance or effectiveness. When a master smuggler slices, they're not choosing. It's 50%. It's going to be encumbrance, and 50% is going to be base. So what's the worst slice it could get on effectiveness? 15%, something like that. So equals 73% times 1.15. Okay, the worst slice is going to push it to 83, 84. Okay, it might actually be 20% effectiveness slice. Which means the worst it's going to get is 87. Now, I can experiment on this and make this more. But if I was to not spend any more points, okay, and I get it sliced, so if I pushed all of my points to reduce the ham, and then I got an effectiveness slice, it's going to get me to 87, 88%. 88%. Okay. Now, if I put a couple more points in to get this over the line, that's where the smart money is, to know that it's a 50-50. Now, I can't remember if it's about 15% or 20% minimum slice. Let's assume it's 20. Okay. So in order to get this to hit 90, I think I need it to be 70. 75. It's going to be bang on the money. Okay. So I've only got to get another 2 out of this, and then I'm going to hit it. I don't need to spend loads of points to make it 80%, because I'm still going to get there with the basic slice. Does that make sense? Hope so. If I push it to 80 though, then I get an effectiveness slice, effective encumbrance slice, then I'll have 80 kinetic, 80 everything else, and then, so I don't need to, but I probably will push it to 80%. If I push it to 80, I don't care if I get an encumbrance slice or an effectiveness slice. You know, when do you ever give a piece of armor to the smuggler and go, it don't matter, mate. Don't matter what you do, right? Whatever you do, I'm happy. Either you're making it a 90% piece for 90% energy, or you're going to reduce the ham. Either way, I'm the winner. So the way that I would look to that is, if I got the item, I'm going to put, what did I say I need? 7? I need 8 points. So I need to put this much in to get this to go up, and I probably might need another, oh no, I'll do it with 7. And then really I should push this to 80, and then I can reduce the ham down. Okay? Like I said, you can gamble, right? And just start, put all 5 points to reduce the ham. It's not the best way to make the armor. Certainly not a good way to make it if you're trying to sell it. If you're doing it for yourself, then yeah, take the risk. But I want to get that to 80. And I can't remember how many points. It's probably 3% per box. Okay, so another box. And this, annoyingly, it's going to cost me another box. Okay, so I've got 2 points to still spend on the ham. There we go. If I'd have taken some polygon cake and got some amazing successes, assembly rolls, then that would have saved me a point. I'd probably put a point in there. So that is a very good piece of armor. Okay, the ham's low because it's RIS, not composite, right? And it's going to slice to 90%, 50% of the time, or I could get up to 40% off of this. Okay, and it's got 44,000 condition, by the way. One thing about those Night Sister layers, they don't add any condition. So when I put 3 of those in, it took 39 off of the action. Didn't add any condition though. And people like condition these days. So we'll just make this fun item. We're going to go with the same scheme. Not sure I like it that way around. We're going to go that way. I think. It's weird the way it shadows at the back. Yeah, we're going to go with the red boots. Maroon boots. So that's a super duper piece. Right? Bear in mind that's an interwoven. Okay? Got to buy those schematics off people who loot them off the Acklay. So that's several different types of RIS. That's a plain RIS helm. Nothing special. Didn't even use a layer in it. 163 mind. Okay? If you want to compare that, let's compare that to your beast helm. Okay, 163 mind on the RIS, 204 on the U-Beast. Alright. But to get the boost, to get the U-Beast to be 80% kinetic, I need to put a Vorator scale in it. Okay. Actually not a Vorator scale, it will require a Crate scale currently. Because I can only get it to 79%, I've practiced with 7%. So I can't get the ham down. Once the mats for U-Beast get better, you could then start putting Night Sister shards in here to bring it down. And actually, if you put a nice Night Sister shard, you'll knock out the health and the action, right? Because so that could end up better. But then you've got other big differences. 20k condition versus 44,000 condition. Yeah, that's a big thing these days. It's a big thing. If you're going to stick an AA in the armor, it can be a big thing. 14% base, 20% base, no one cares. So that's as a comparison. And then if I look to, have I got any normal boots? I probably don't. So let's just take a pair of boots out of a mini suit. Grind mini suit. Let's take that out. So grind normal pair of composite boots. 63, 80, 60. Okay, so 200. Effectively 200 and a bit for the boots. In terms of ham cost, these RIS boots, 60. Alright, significantly lower ham. Alright, significantly lower ham. 30k by the way for a grind mini suit. Just saying. Or low ham for 60k. Stun 60k. Just saying. So that. So yeah, so you end up with basic RIS. Okay, nothing fancy in it. Needs that giant Dean's chemo scale. Needs that Harrower, Woolamander Harrower fragment. Needs that Gurk King hide. One of each. Get it to your Armorsmith. Tell him which colour palette you want. I'll put the link in the description below. Current resources for RIS allow 80. Now I've got some old resources, right? Been here since the server started. I've got some new ones I got yesterday. It's the ones that are respawning in the last couple of weeks that are making the difference. Okay, so don't worry thinking that you need to have had resources that are 200 days old. You need the resources that are current and fresh. That's what's making the big difference. The previous Rory fiber blast I had was Talus fiber blast was nothing like as good as this one. So yesterday's server best was actually rubbish. Today's server best, super good. So basic RIS, enhanced RIS. Okay, start adding in layers that you want. You want 39% stun RIS, you can have it. If you want 39% stun RIS sliced to 90%, I'd have to have a think, because those are going to be 3s. So they get you to 3s. And then when you experiment, could you slice that? Yeah, you probably could. You probably could. You need a bit of luck with the slice. But yes, you could. I think you could make a 37% stun, 80% kinetic, 90% base, low ham RIS. Right, so if you want to well boss it in style, really pimp it, I think it's possible. If you're not a Jedi. And then you've got Interwoven RIS, where you can build it in such a way that it doesn't matter what happens with the slice. Either way, it's fantastic armor. Okay, 80% kinetic, 80% energy, and everything else, right? Electrical, blast, heat and cold. It's vulnerable to stun, so you don't want to wear that when those geos at the world boss come shooting you. But you can put a stun layer in it, and then you get rid of the vulnerability. So you could have put a stun layer here, which would have given 3%. You could leave these at 8s. But you can go and get those other Night Sister layers I've got, which are 10%. Okay? So, you could go and put a picket hide in here for 20%. You can probably make it 80% before you even start experimenting. So that the options are endless. But if you want to buy RIS, you want to make enhanced RIS, you ask your Armorsmith for interwoven RIS, supply them Night Sister layers, supply them yellow geocubes, and supply them 8% Janta hides. They can make you 80 armor, pre-slice, low ham, before they do anything else. And by the way, I could have taken the gamble to not put that not 8% Janta in, and I could have put a Night Sister layer in instead, Night Sister shard in, and we could have zeroed that out. In fact, let's make one more. Night Sister armor layer. Where's those 10%? What are they? 9s. No. There we go. 10s. Let's have those. We've got the 9% cube. So let's now find us a Night Sister shard. I should have put this as a secondary video. That tries to max it. So what's the ham cost I did up with? 32, 14, 21. 32, 14, 21. 32, 14, 21. That's a shame. It's going to blitz that out. $32, 14, 20, 32, 21. Tell you what, let's use that one. And let's put in a Beskar layer. Should take the health out. This is royally me messing about now. I should have put the end of the video and gone, watch this bonus bit where Larrick has a quick non-maths version, so I'm not paying enough attention. Try and blitz those boots out to be 0 ham. Okay. Place your bets now. If you're watching the video, don't fast forward. Does he do it or not? If I do it, you'll see them. They'll be in the shop on display. Right. What am I making? I want to make an interwoven RIS segment. It needs to have 19% Beskar, 2 10%, slightly less on the action, that's the only thing. 2 10%. It needs to have is that the shard I just pulled? Yeah, I think it is. That shard. And then I need actually that shard's better. 28, 31, 27. 28, 31, 27. 28, 31, 27. Actually, they want bags better. So we'll go for one of those. Then I need to get my 9%. Actually, just check for yellow cubes. I think 9's the highest I've seen. Let's have a quick check. 8. Was a 9. Oh, that was a 10. Look at that. I don't know what the difference is. I don't know when. It's another 9. I don't know when they changed on between Basilisk and Finalize. I didn't make armor for the last year of Basilisk. Year and a bit. But something definitely changed. I don't know why. Actually, that's a yellow one, which is probably what's helping boost that. Anyway, it's going in. So, and then we've got interwoven RIS. So I need those, and I want some Gurking hide. I need woolly. Stay, don't collapse on me. Sandy having a chef. Right, make some polycake. Okay. Really should have watched that video. Let's just do it, I think. 10 in there. Beskar, a couple of 10s. There's a decimal pointage going on somewhere because I've got 45. Okay. Okay. $24 is going to be enough to carry me. Now, I put it all in there before. This is where I'm now thinking I should have thought it, just done it. It's impulsive. Let's do it. I might have made it slightly wrong. I might have needed to have taken that off the ham. You know, what you're messing about with, Larrick? Oh, 10% yellow cube, 10% Night Sisters, 9% Beskar. Okay. Can't drink any Bespin. Too full up. I'm not going to wait. How long did that boss last? Not too long. Not too long till a couple of hours. Which isn't bad because it's completely off peak time. Right, 50 odd seconds. Let's see where we go with this pair of boots. The goal is to get 80% kinetic, 80% base, 0 ham, pre-slice. And then you'd be really gutted if you've got... No, I think... What's the maths going to do there? Send it seriously negative. How does that work on your stats? I don't actually know how that works. If you just have a negative modifier, does it actually give you a bonus? I don't know how that works. Because if I make that 0 and then I go and slice it, what does it go? Minus 40%. How does it calculate minus 40% on 0? What's that? 0. Interesting. I don't know what would happen. Don't know actually what would happen. It's an interesting question for some people. If you make 0 ham pre-slice and then it gets a ham slice, it's a cumbrance, what actually happens? Right, so where are we with this? I'm not going to get 5 action points off. But, what's that? Net 0? Net minus 3. Okay. Net minus 3. So, question is, can I get it up to where I need to get it to? 3. Okay, don't be kind. Okay. Gives me 4. But they're worth 3 each. Not amazing in the house. Not amazing in the house. I've got... How many points do I need to have in force sensitive crafting experimentation to give me just some amazings? I'm basically in a research centre, even though I'm in my house. And I've got points in assembly. Anyway, 80% kinetic, 80% everything else. Net minus 3. Minus 5, 5, minus 3. I'm well chuffed with that. If I'd have thought about that a bit more, I could have eked that out. I was close on that, but it's all right. What am I going to do with these? They're going to be showpiece. And then I'm going to get someone to slice them. KDS, Interwoven. Maybe just call them that. KDS Interwoven RIS armor boots. Yeah, that'll do. That'll do for the naming convention. And in terms of colour, I think we're going to go with something that can work with comp. Do we go double red? I feel like I'm making Dorothy's boots in the Wizard of Oz now. Make them just double. Let's go double red. Interwoven RIS boots, 80% kinetic, 80% everything else. It's already negative ham. Whether it gets encumbrance or effectiveness, who knows? I'm very interested to see it slice now, because I want to know how it deals with this -5 with a 40% slice. See if the maths blows up and it ends up putting it at +10. Who knows? but we're going to create that. We'll put them in shop. People will be able to see them. I might stick them on the table. Maybe I'll put them on the table in front of the guy with the RIS stuff. Other bits will go on the vendor. I need to make some more. That's my shop. Thanks for watching. This is RIS Armour Crafting, and this has been a little experimentation and to show you what RIS is all about. Thanks for watching. Ta-da!